let's get on to some of the local issues then, because it's been a big couple of weeks. And so we won't go over everything you've read in the news, but we do want to just give you the basics. And if you have questions about something you didn't understand, we'll start with that. So Bob, would you like to start with the review of what we've done with the coalition? And then
Sherry?
Well, there was two hearings in the past week or so. The first one was on October the 27th, so a week ago Wednesday, and that was for the Siesta Key Village Resort Hotel, 170 room on 1 acre. We had about a 5-hour hearing in front of the BCC. I thought the coalition and SKA did a good job of summarizing our complaints, but in the end, they were approved, but 3-2. That was a pretty close call, and so
Not close enough.
that, yeah. Christian Ziegler, who is the north end of the key, voted against it, and so did Nancy Dieter, who is from Venice. But, then this Tuesday, there was a hearing on the Old Sticky Point Hotel, sometimes known as the Ascari Hotel.
Yes.
As well as their parking garage, which is going to be beside CD's. And we had good arguments there. I thought you were well represented, but the vote was 4-1 with Christian Ziegler flipping for
Changing his
approval.
mind.
And so I think it was less egregious in the village, but it's going to cause, in our opinion, tremendous traffic problems on Old Sticky Point Road from the bridge around the corner and down Midnight Pass. So all I can tell you is both of those are on approval. There are 30 days in order to appeal that to a court of appeals, and the coalition is considering working with other residents on the pier who are more directly impacted and filing an appeal. And we're also working with some attorneys. And I want to tell you that both of those groups are looking for some financial support. And if you're interested, back to the room there, back by where the kitchen entrance is, after the meeting, and I'll give you some information about how you could stay plugged in. It'll probably be within 30 days, maybe sometime next week, that people make their mind up on where it is. But, there's different kinds of challenges you can make, and some of them bring with the burden of, if you lose, you have to pay the county's legal fees. So that's not an insignificant thing to take on. There may be some that don't bring that along with them. And there are a bunch of groups that are thinking about doing it. So the other thing I would tell you that the Wells Fargo site ran into a roadblock. That big, beautiful oak tree that's in front of there? The county won't let them take that down. So they've decided to scrap the plan, and they're going to go back to the drawing boards and try to figure out what to do. Unfortunately, it might be further back but higher up. So, but I don't know. The guy who is the developer, that Dave Ballard, has been good working with us and taking suggestions, and he just offered again today. So I'm going to take a step back and try to figure out what I can do so that it doesn't impact Siesta Royale and Gulf Bay as much. And I think, but he was scheduled to go in front of the planning commission which would review it and endorse it. On December the 2nd, he's canceled that meeting. And if he changes his design, which he tells me he can't get around that tree any other way, then he has to go back to the beginning and start with another neighborhood workshop. And so you have to be a marathon runner to be involved in this kind of stuff. Anyways, that's about what I want to say, but maybe back there and we can talk a little bit more about it. But it's probably about a week premature for us to have collected our advice from lawyers, because this is continuing step.
Questions from anyone here?
This fellow bought that property, paid about $4 million printing the paper,
Correct.
and it's not that big a site for starters.
2.5 acres, so it's 2.5
I
times bigger than the other two.
They didn't buy that property for starters, I mean, that's, but was his purchase in any way contingent upon a favorable development of the hotel? So he
No, it was not.
He can't back out of the sale.
No.
Well, that's-
Maribel will have a question for you, Bob.
And there's Joe in the back there too.
Okay, and Joe.
Yes. Yes, hi. I'm an attorney and I believe maybe there'll be other people here that are, but I'd like to help with some of the legal issues and maybe, if some people help, that could help cut down on some of the costs. And I was wondering if maybe you could send out to the group some contact info from maybe the people on Save Siesta Key who are the lawyers liaising with the outside lawyers to try to decide what to do and what legal issues to bring up.
Well, I understand the Save Siesta Key and some of their associates are considering an appeal. The appeals that I'm talking about are through the coalition and residents. The ones that live directly like it, Marina Del Sol. So there's several people doing it, and God bless them, never need more than one legal challenge.
Right, but do you know the contact at Save Siesta Key, the person who I would contact? Maybe you could send me that,
Yeah,
That's
the legal issues? Yeah.
Harry, have you know address for her?
Yeah, but we are not pursuing any of the legal action relationship with hotels.
okay.
So I think there's some.
So it's not Save Siesta Key. I think it's the Siesta Key Coalition would be the best place to contact.
So we'll put that in our e-blast when we put it out, so that she has a contact.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you know any particular individuals, it would be more helpful than the organization. So if you happen to know anybody.
the president of the coalition is a guy by the name of Mark Spiegel, Spiegel.
Okay,
And
Thank
if
you.
look up siestakeycoalition.com.
.org.
There is a website, and you can email the coalition. They have a Gmail account, siestakeycoalition@gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
somebody back here? Yeah.
Joe, hi
Hi,
Joe.
Joe.
Is there such a thing as doing a recall on?
That's a good point.
I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Might be, they're all two of them are running.
Well, Nancy and Alan are turned out. Next year, I think. They have one more year, but they're turned
Actually,
out.
Alan is termed out.
And Nancy neither.
Nancy is also?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
And the other three just got elected. They're in their second term, 4 years. Mike and Christian's in his first.
That'd be something to look at.
Bob,
Yeah,
there's no provision in the Sarasota County Charter for recall.
Okay,
okay,
that
They
answers
probably
that.
put that in there.
yes.
What is the status of the proposed hotel?
Well, that's a remodeling expansion of the resort, and it hasn't
Hasn't
even
had
been
planning.
deemed to have a complete application yet. And, or a workshop. Well, they had a workshop, but their application had a bunch of questions, and they've been, it seems to me they've been slow walking it to see what these first two did.
They haven't had a planning commission meeting yet.
No,
Is that the one with the tiki hut? they just
Yes.
built?
yes. Yeah,
That
I would,
hotel's been there for,
Other.
motel's been there for 50, 60 years.
you're right. Yeah, and they're grandfathered in. Their problem is that they want to go up in the number of rooms that they have from 55 to a higher number.
Yeah.
And they want to modernize it, not surprisingly, and, they're not exactly in FEMA compliance, because they're not 20 foot off the ground, so, if they were gonna do any expansion, they'd have to do the same kind of stuff that's going on now. I will tell you, there's one other thing that, is going on, and that's that the Siesta Key Chamber of Commerce has submitted a text amendment and that would say you can only build what they call boutique hotels, and instead of the 26 rooms per acre that just got raised to unlimited, which is amazing, they would put a limit of 52. And they would also say no more than 75 rooms on a site. So
Wow.
if they got voted approved as a change back, the first two hotels are grandfathered in. You can't retroactively do it. And they're, because the current zoning code says unlimited on barrier islands and in CG and commercial general, anybody that has now unlimited might have what's called a third Harris claim of government taking of rights that they currently now have, unless something happens in 30 days. So the next month is kind of interesting time. Yes, ma'am.
What is the jurisdiction for the hearings on this for the appeal?
It would be in front of the 12th District Court here in Sarasota.
Okay.
So it'd be in the courthouse, and just like if we were in front of Judge McHugh for Big Pass, there's a handful of judges that it could be assigned to. And the defendant is probably the county, because that's the county action that you'd be protesting, not
Not the developer.
not the developers. They did what they thought was right, and the county agreed with them.
There was another,
Has any other case ever come up like this before with the county? Where they could challenge on their changes to the comprehensive plan?
I don't know.
Or,
Well, the trouble is they didn't change the comprehensive plan.
right, but, well.
It just decided it wasn't valid.
That's the argument
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of challenges of zoning, but
for having.
Jim?
Well, I think people need to know that that challenge is very likely to occur, number one. And the second thing that people might like to know is the traffic light that FDOT approved for Avenue B and C is under appeal. That case is underway. And if we win that case, they'll have to put everything they're doing in the sticking point now, which you've seen going on, will have to be put back the way it was.
So did the Zoom people hear that?
I don't think so. I think you should repeat it.
repeat it.
You can just, yeah, Jim, why don't you repeat what he said so they get it through the microphone?
Yeah, okay. Well, Jim just said that for the promenade, that the traffic light that is required at Avenue B and C on Stickney Point, they're building those medians right now, but it's under appeal. And should they lose the appeal, then they'd have to put it back like it was, and they couldn't build the promenade. So that's the real shock. Yeah, and it'd be premature to talk about what the challenges are to the hotels, because I don't want to tell them. We're not ready.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, well, let's,
Anybody else?
This is Barbara Colangelo. I do have one question.
I've got to get off.
My question is, what can, I know you said about residents that are closest to where the hotel is, you're going to work with them, but what can we, as residents that don't live close, or we live really close to the Collier Miramar one they just passed, which is really sickening that's happened, but what can we do to help you? You know, can we write to people, what can we do? We want to help.
Yeah, it's the same thing I said earlier. Send your name to the Siesta Key Coalition at gmail.com. And right now, there's nothing you can do. Some of the avenues for challenge, you have to have standing. In other words, you have to have a direct physical impact. Other ones, maybe not so. And so let us know, and I can tell you in a week or two, we may be looking for contributions, and we could explain to you how they would be used.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
I'm going to shift our direction. We could be talking a long time about these issues, but I think a few of us have probably spent our IQs and our verbal abilities over the last couple of weeks. It's been a rough road, so but I think everybody did a great job submitting their letters. You should have seen the stacks of emails that they brought forward into the chamber that had not yet been read, that will be. A lot of them, more than 2,500 some odd emails. So thank you all for raising your voice and being concerned and caring. And also our group, by the way, was extremely respectful. I must tell you, the sheriffs, there's a few sheriffs that seemed to get upset by a few hand claps at one point. We were kind of wondering what that was about, because our group that was there, our group that we've been working on, we sent out a thing saying, hey, treat this like being in a courtroom. If you were in a courtroom on a legal matter, treat it that way. This is a legal hearing. And I think we all did very well. So thank you all, because it's hard sometimes to hold your feelings in. But thank you all. It wasn't us, whoever it was.
No agents present?
Thank you, yeah. So, okay, so the next thing I want to do is have Harry and Anand.
Not that we know of.
Oh,
I thought I was next.
I did not hear
Harry
that.
is next.
It's whatever that was. Sorry.
One of the FBI agents there.
Not that we know of. Okay, so the next thing I want to make sure to do is have Harry and Anand come up, who is leading, along with several other people, the issue for the Siesta Key Incorporation Initiative, and he wanted to be sure and tell you some things that are happening with that.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you.
Harry, I'm gonna take a picture because the screen is only showing our, so this will be on the video so people will be able to recognize. So thank you. Good. Bob, I want one good shot with you smiling.
It's hard this week.
Yeah, there, that looks good.
Thank you so much to the board of Siesta Key Association for giving us this opportunity to update you all. So I promise you, I do have some. I promise you, I do have some good news to share after all the drama and sad news that we've been hearing for the last 2 weeks. But before I say that, last 2 weeks, what has happened at the county level is further proof and affirms that Siesta Key has no representation, no voice at the county level. They do what they want to do, when they want to do it, that's it. Okay, they're not gonna listen to anything, and which is very sad state of affairs. And those of you who don't know me, I'm originally from New York, been a resident here about 10 years. I served in public office for 12 years. I was the mayor of my town for 3 terms, a town on the North Shore of Long Island. And, I have always said that our democratic process was always built based upon people's input. There's a lot of projects that happen in my town during my tenure, and we always listened to people. We took their inputs, and we made sure that their inputs were accounted for. And it's appalling to see what happens in Sarasota County, because I have never seen something like this ever. I mean, why have this whole facade of a public hearing and have people come and speak for hours and hours if you're not gonna listen to anything? All you're gonna do is rubber stamp the thing, that has been presented to you. So, and I will debate with any commissioner at any point on this issue. This is not how the process is supposed to work. It's supposed to start with a community input, and community input is very important in these decisions, but they tend to ignore at every step of the way. And you walk down right now, what's happening on the north side of the island, and that beautiful landscape, Whispering Sands. I mean, the community is opposed to it. People who are neighbors there, that's the gateway to our village, and they are destroying it and turning it into a parking lot.
That's right.
So that shows you that their ultimate motive is to turn the entire Siesta Key into a parking lot with big hotels so that we can keep filling their coffers with bed tax dollars, okay? And that's the whole intention. So having said that, I think that highlights the importance of why we need to take control of this island and our destiny by incorporating it into a town and having our own elected people run this town. So with that background, I want to share with you a couple of things and also want to clarify one thing. So we presented a feasibility study, which is a rock solid feasibility study that was filed before the deadline of September 1st. We received some feedback. They were nothing major. They were just some questions they needed clarification on. We were able to get them clarification of that to their satisfaction. That's all good. Our charter has been written and that has been presented. The local delegation meeting, as you know, which took place about 3 weeks ago, and we made our presentation at that local delegation meeting. Chairman Robinson at that time of the local delegation, he indicated they did not want to vote. They were not ready to vote on it at that local delegation meeting. So they said, we will consider having another local delegation meeting if we think we want to pursue this. So that left everything kind of up in the air. But we now have a commitment from them that the week of December 13th, the local delegation is going to have another meeting, and Siesta Key Incorporation is on the agenda. And we expect that at that point, they will be taking a vote. And we are expecting and hoping and continue to speak to each one of the delegation members to convince them so that the vote is in our favor. So that's one good news, that at least we are not completely shut down. There is another local delegation meeting that's going to take place in the week of December 13th. The second good news is that we do have a draft of the local bill that has to be filed in Tallahassee. That was filed this afternoon, and our representative, Fiona McFarland, has given the green light to file that bill in a drafting stage. That's one of the first stage, where all the bills are filed. So that took place, and our consultant, John Moyle, confirmed to me that he had the okay, he had the go-ahead. I had a phone conversation with him this morning, and he filed that bill. So these are very significant steps. We are also expecting that Representative McFarland and Senator Bluders will be holding a town hall meeting at some point between now and middle of December. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get a date commitment yet because, as many of you may know, the governor has called for a special session to basically discuss the mask mandates bill. And that special session starts on November 15th. So there's a little bit of uncertainty on the timing of when that would end and all that. But I'm meeting with Representative McFarland on Monday, and I plan to hash all this out and at least get a firm date on that. So all these are the steps we need. They are moving in the right direction. Now, one thing I want to clarify, and then I'm going to ask for all of your help. So there's been a rumor around because of some email responses that some people received or something that Incorporation will double your taxes. It's absolutely not true. Our feasibility study and our budget shows that we can run this town with $250,000 ad valorem taxes, which equates to about $97 per year for an average assessed value of about $440,000. We have given a 5-year budget, and the revenue that we are able to generate just with $250,000 tax is enough to not only run the government, not only be able to run our town, we are only going to be needing 46% of what we are going to be, raising. And the other 54% of that is for infrastructure improvements and contingency funds. It's a solid plan. It's a government-like model. That's what we believe in, and that's what we have proposed. So anybody tells you otherwise that the taxes are going to double and this and that is absolutely not true. We ask you to go on our website. The feasibility study is there. Our 5-year plan is there. It's all black and white. It's well done. There's nothing that's hidden from anyone there. It's all out there in the world. Having said all of this, I still need everybody's help to call our local representatives and email them to express your support. This is our only chance to get this done. And for them to sponsor it and get behind it, they need to see a very strong community support. They need to see that people are for it. And the reason for that is they don't want to stick their necks out in Tallahassee, get this thing passed, and then it comes back and it gets defeated at a referendum. So I am, asking each one of you to please call. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. They will answer your phone call. And if you have subscribed to our newsletter or our updates on SaveSiestaKey.org, we have sent several emails with all the contact information that are there. And you have the email addresses, you have the phone numbers where you can contact them and show your support. So thank you very much.
Harry, I have a question. I have one. Has anyone asked McFarland why she asked us to, or asked you to annex with the city of Sarasota?
So, I basically, that was a what if.
Yeah,
question. And it's not something that was.
I just got back on. I don't know where we're at with this meeting.
Excuse me, but you're talking out loud on the meeting.
Oh, so sorry.
Thank you.
And it was not something that,
I'm not showing.
it was really, it was one of those what if questions. And I did not want to address that at the meeting because of the shortage of time. There's a clock ticking right in front of you. But the very next day, I was able to answer in an email to her. And we were also able to send that email to all our supporters. We don't see that as a feasibility option at this point in time because City of Sarasota is an additional 4 mills of ad valorem taxes. That's number one. There is no comparison between their zoning and, it's City of Sarasota versus, who we are. And we don't think that even if that was to be a possibility, that at this point, unless something very dramatic happens, that we will still not have the right representation because the city continues to grow dramatically. So we don't see that as a compatible solution at this point.
Okay. Supposedly, the local papers have reported that she's in favor of the annexation by the city. So just so you know, it was something in the papers.
Yeah, the local papers, I think they misunderstood her question. I mean, her question was, would you consider other options? And this was like, one of the things she threw out. But after reading my email, I did get a response that said, Harry, I understand. Thank you for clarifying it. And I think we have made that point clear. Yes.
Dan?
Is it good?
Sorry, go ahead.
Is it customary to have public officials endorse or sponsor a plan such as you've got? That's the first question.
So it's not only customary, but it is one of the rules that the delegation, local delegation has to sponsor a local bill. And the other rule among the local delegation is that they would sponsor bills only which have a unanimous support. So that's makes it a little harder for us. So we have to work on each one of our local representatives to make sure they get behind it.
Second question is, are you taking the initiative in getting editorial support and other publicity for this?
Yes, so editorial support, there was an editorial in Herald Tribune. I also just got off the phone with another reporter who's doing an updated story.
You were on the news last night.
Yeah, so that was the WFLA story. And I just got off with another Herald Tribune reporter. He's doing a story which he said he'll finish writing it tomorrow and expect that sometime this weekend. Observer, Matt Walsh, I have spoken to him. He's planning on writing an editorial on that as well. And then on CSSN, you have seen a number of reporting on that. Yes, ma'am.
There's a small group of us who live on the north end of Siesta Key and also Bay Island, and we are city of
Right.
Sarasota.
Yes.
So where do we stand in all of this? We feel very much a part of Siesta Key, of course. And we just don't.
Except you pay higher taxes than we do.
A little bit.
Yeah, so there are other residents from Bay Island who have expressed the same sentiment as you are expressing. We cannot do this. This is a two-step process. It's not possible to do it in one shot. So if Siesta Key was to incorporate, and then in the future, the north part of Siesta Key wants to separate from the city and merge into the town of Siesta Key, that would be a whole different process, which will be something in the future, but it's not possible to do both at the same time. Any other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to encourage everybody to write the letters, and you guys have given us great information on the website on what to write about and key points to make. And Fiona McFarland is responding to those emails. So a friend got a response earlier in the week where she wrote a lot about, are you aware that your taxes will go up a lot? She used the example of Fort Myers Beach, but really didn't have the correct information because their property values are so vastly different than ours that $250,000 for us makes an enormous difference in the tax revenue that we'll receive. So I was a little concerned that she had done that. So I wrote a letter to her as well and explained that we expect that there is a small, $250,000. And just like when you buy into an HOA neighborhood, you pay a little HOA fee because you want protection, you want representation. The same way for Siesta Key. We want some protection and we want representation, and a reasonable cost to get that prevents what we're having right now, which is disastrous, no representation.
Yeah, very valid points, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
If you were to move forward at the fastest possible time, fastest track we could possibly do what we want, what is the earliest, and let's say we're successful at every stage, what is the earliest that we could stop the madness that's currently going on?
Okay, so good question, but the timeline is a little bit, there is some flexibility in the timeline. So the first stage is that, of course, the delegation, which will be in December, they have to get behind it and vote unanimously and say, yes, they will sponsor this bill. The bill, as I stated, has already been presented and has been submitted for drafting. So we have done all the work. They don't need to do any of that stuff. The bill is already there. After that, the legislative session, which starts in January sometime, the bill gets basically placed in the pipeline. I mean, they would have hundreds of other bills, and at some stage that bill, gets passed, and then it has to go to the Senate, and it has to pass the Senate, and then, of course, like every other bill, it has to be signed by the governor. Now, I understand. I want to make sure everybody understands, there is some resistance in Tallahassee about creating new levels of government or creating new townships, which we have made very strong point on why this is different. So, you know, there's nobody has any control of, you know, when it's going to be on the calendar in the state assembly and then the state senate and then, you know, when the governor signs. But we are hoping that if all goes through, hopefully within the matter of, you know, next 5 to 6 months, and then it comes back for a referendum, then potentially in November of 2022, that's when the general election takes place, that this can be on the referendum. And then if the referendum passes, then, you know, as of 2023, we become a town. And then, you know, we basically, there will be a temporary period where, you know, there will be service contracts, intergovernment service contracts have to be entered between the new town and the county of Sarasota, and so on and so forth. But, so that's the general timeline I can give you.
Harry, one question too. Go ahead. You go first.
No, can you please clarify for me exactly where the north and south boundaries are of Siesta Key? Because we already heard, I'm a little bit confused by an earlier person who said that she's not on Siesta Key.
Right.
Where are the north and south boundaries? Are they related to the bridges?
No.
No, they're not. So if you, I don't want to, you know, verbally describe this to you. If you go on, there's a GIS map, the county map, you'll be able to see exactly where Siesta Key, the county part ends, and where the Bay Island starts. I think it's somewhere around Flamingo Lane.
Shell Road.
No, it's where Sullymar is and Roberts Point Road.
Roberts Point and Shell.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
Robert.
right about there.
Okay. And then the south side, of course, it goes all the way till, you know, where the midnight pass used to be.
Is all the rest of the key is county.
So it's,
You said there was a unanimous needed for the delegation. I thought it was just simple majority.
it's supposed to be unanimous.
It's supposed to be, okay.
One question I have here is, please advise why Tallahassee could be resistant to our incorporation.
They just don't like to see new townships because they think new townships are new headaches. Simply as
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, go ahead.
If this were to pass in this session, could you resubmit next year?
Yes, but we are hoping that's not the case. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work.
Everything would be
Yeah.
pretty much.
I cannot even tell you how much work has gone in to be able to do this in such a short period of time. So that would be not good news if that happens. Yes, sir.
Approximately how many registered voters on Siesta Key?
About 6,000.
Yep. We keep losing population.
Do you need more petitions or where do we stand on that?
Yeah, so, you know, again, the petitions show support also. So, you know, we do have one of our ambassadors here and she has some petitions and, you know, anyone who has not signed the petition, please do so. But again, it's going to be a community effort. That's what it's going to take to get it done.
And I'll put the delegation's contact information on the SKA website also.
Thank you so much. That'll be helpful. Very much. Thank you. All right, thank you all.